Well, thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to uh, sit through our webinar this evening to learn a little bit more about the 2023 Cultural Funding Program. It seems a little bit odd. We're about to start March tomorrow, and yet we're already looking ahead to 2023. And that's really because this this effort takes several months to get through, and it goes into the county budget discussions this summer. So we're asking folks to think ahead, and that's always a good thing. I also want to thank you on behalf of Erie County and the county executive, Mark Poloncarz, for the programming that you guys do deliver for the people of Erie County. It's an extremely important program for us within the Department of Environment Planning, and I know it is for the county executive personally. Committed to funding arts and cultural programs, not only just helping to fund programs, but helping to fund healthier, more resilient organizations. And you'll find in the presentation tonight, a lot of what we're doing, we're not looking at the programming and necessarily what programming is offered. We're looking at the health of the organization. How can we help you be stronger with the funding that we do have? So Erie County is one of the very few counties, if not the only county outside of New York City, that offers this type of funding. And so it's really an honor for us within the department to be able to be associated with this. So if you're on tonight, you're on because this is a new program for you. It's new for you. It's not really new for the county. We've been funding this program for a long time. And as Marie will walk through tonight, there's quite a bit to know. It's a very structured process, and there's a lot of help available getting you through the process. Next slide there, please. So what I'm going to talk about, I'm already in the middle of my talk, is kind of laying the groundwork for what you're going to hear tonight. In a few minutes, Connie Campanero will take over. She is the chair of the Erie Arts and Cultural Advisory Board, and will walk you through the program, what we've been doing this year, and how we look ahead next year. And then Marie Ortiz will walk through a live demo of the program that you'll be needed to go through and fill out. So this is a little bit different than the program tomorrow night, which is for organizations that have pursued and received funding before. So welcome aboard, and I certainly encourage you to ask any questions that you have as you go through this. So next slide, please. Okay, well, we've just a kind of a transition to Connie here. The county has been recognized at several levels with this program. Just recently, National Association of Counties has a program where they acknowledge innovative funding programs that county governments are doing across the country. And this is one of the programs that did get some national exposure, and we get a lot of interest. So with that, Connie, I think I will turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about our partners and where we go from here.
Thank you, Daniel. Hi, I am Connie Campanero. I'm new to the position of chair of the Erie County Arts and Cultural Advisory Board, but not new to this process. I have a lifetime spent behind the scenes as an arts administrator because I was the only one born in my family with no talent whatsoever. So I gravitated to the management and administrative side, and I have almost 20 years in nonprofit management. I have been on both sides of this fence, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. So I know what it's like to be a grant seeker, and I also know what it's like to be evaluating the grant requests. And tonight we're just going to try to bridge the gap to increase everybody's level of confidence and answer any lingering questions that you may have. I also want to thank all of you for being here. We've got board members in attendance. And of course, our nonprofit arts and cultural representatives are here, as well as Thomas Baines and Mary Lee, and I apologize if I forgot anyone. So we all know what an arts council is, right? Well, 10 years ago, Art Services was established to be our arts council. And the difference between Art Services and the Arts Council that formerly existed for Erie County and Buffalo is that Art Services does look after all of Western New York for the purposes of tonight's presentation, we're talking about how art services helps you as an Erie County cultural. I mean, realistically speaking, they should be your best friend. Hypothetically, if for some reason there was no money coming from Erie County, Art Services would be the one organizing the picket line. They are here to help you in terms of what they could do for assisting you, explaining to you, meeting with you one-on-one to help you through the process of applying for the grant. Just don't wait till the last minute, because that's not really fair to anyone. But if you feel like after tonight, and you feel like you need a hand, something above and beyond what Mary Lee can offer, feel free to reach out to Art Services. They're here to help you. Next slide, I think. All right. This is a recap of the funding that was provided by Erie County Arts and Cultural process to Erie County arts and cultural organizations. 106. It might even be a record in terms of the number of grant-seeking organizations that applied. 106 were awarded, and almost $7.5 million in funding was provided. And I think that, as Daniel probably already mentioned, in light of the fact that we are only, in like year 45 of a pandemic, this is really, really impressive. And this demonstrates commitment and pride in our cultural sector. It's rich. It makes Erie County a great place to live. So when we talk about, well, how much money are the applicants getting out of 106 of them? The most frequently provided grant amount, the most frequently issued check is for $3,000. The halfway point where there are as many above as below that amount is a median, and that's a $10,000 grant. And then, of course, the average amount of all funding, divided by the number of applicants was 70,000. And that is where it stands today. And it does change year to year. The minimum amount has been increasing year to year as well. Is there anything else that I should add about this? I think it's up. It's up about $500,000 from the year before. So that's great. Thank you, Marilee. The process. So there's a lot to cram into this little visual. The process. So the application is released, and as many of you know, like when you apply for a grant from any other government authority or even a private foundation, when it's released, that means you can log on and create your document and start to fill in your own profile. There's one allowed per organization. I should also mention that the one single contact person for you, even though you're about to meet a whole lot of people that are involved in the process, or you'll see that there are a lot of people, we're all behind the scenes with the exception of Marilee. So like with a private foundation, it's really better for you to have one point of contact. That way we can make sure that there's never any he said, she said, and nothing gets lost in the shuffle. So the grant application is released. We have these briefings. This year there's a briefing geared toward folks that want to learn more about the process. And then tomorrow night, a briefing geared toward folks that are experienced in the process. That said, if you really feel like you want to see this a second time and spend a second night with us, go ahead and register for tomorrow night as well. So you create your account, you begin to answer the questions until you actually complete and send in your application form. You do have an opportunity to go back and look at what you said, add your attachments. But like with any grant process, you don't want to wait till the last minute. You have, for level 1 applications, I wish there was a way to know for sure that everyone here is level 1. We're assuming that. For level 1 applications, the deadline to submit is April 13th. And so there's about 7 weeks to get your application ready. For levels 2 and 3, you have about 8 weeks, which I personally think is very generous. But don't wait till the last minute because it's 8 weeks. Go ahead and get as much done of it. Start to tackle it now, because you're going to find once you get started that you don't have all the answers at your fingertips, that you might need to conduct some research of your own. So if you start right away, you'll allow yourself time to get all the parts and pieces prepared and looking as good as they can look. Once you do hit send, once these dates have come and gone, we're going to move into the next phase, which is actually distributing these grant applications to reviewers. And when we get to a future slide, you'll see just how many people are involved. There's 20 plus people all told between the state board. So we're going to check and make sure all your parts and pieces are there. If you were supposed to attach, you meant to attach something, but it didn't come through, we're going to reach out to you and say, hey, we don't have your 990 filing, or whatever it may be. So we're also, you're going to work to make sure all the parts and pieces are there, and we're going to work to make sure all the parts and pieces are there. Some of the evaluators may have additional questions. There might be a lingering question, even though they've read all of your essays and they've looked at all of your attachments. They might still have questions about, well, gee, why are you projecting 3 times as much donated revenue as the past 2 years? What's going on there that I don't see? So there is an opportunity for them to ask questions that, again, are all funneled through the point person. And then you would have a little bit of time to answer those questions. So if for some reason clarity is lacking, there is opportunity for the evaluators to ask for more feedback. So not only are there a little over 20 people involved in the evaluation process, we form subgroups so that we can also talk about what we're evaluating and compare notes and ask questions of one another and get feedback from each other. So as a group, we're going to evaluate as well. And that's also really helpful for us, we have found. And then once all of that is done and we feel like we have exhausted all of the review and we know everything that you were willing to give us about your organization, then it moves to the next level, which is purple here. And the final evaluations are coalesced. There's all kinds of mathematical formulas that play into that. We've got your budget numbers, we've got your request amount, and you'll see later in the slide presentation that there's also an evaluation form. We try to be extremely objective with that because art itself is so objective. But in the evaluation form, there's a lot of numbers being assigned, like grades, with regard to how you're doing in all these various areas. So there's a lot of math that goes into coming up with final percentages and recommendations. That is reviewed with the board. It's discussed by the staff. And at some point, I believe in the summer, those recommendations are then forwarded to the county executive. He does not necessarily rubber stamp them. We don't want you to think that he does. He evaluates the recommendations based on all of the other things he has to consider with regard to the budget and the other priorities of the county. I believe we've seen years where there's pretty darn good agreement with what the board evaluations were. At least that's all I've seen. That said, we don't want you to think that what the board and staff recommends necessarily is going to guarantee get through the process. And this is not unique to Erie County. So continue reading it, because reading it is really about all I know about it too. So the legislature will review the proposed budgets. They'll have budget hearings, and the budget for arts and culturals is just a piece of that pie. And then later in the year, once we know for sure how much is assigned to arts and culture, for sure whether or not our recommendations stuck as is, or whether they were adjusted. Sometimes we get great news and find out that the recommendations were adjusted to go higher than we thought at the time that they were released to the county executive per organization. And that's always fun when we get that kind of news. And if I haven't forgotten anything, we can go on. And we're showing you this just so that you can see, you're looking at your application, but there's a lot more that goes on behind the scenes. And we really do spend a great deal of time on each and every application. So for the next slide. And this is the team. We have a advisory board consisting of folks that are, many of them very well versed at the grant seeking process, very well versed at arts management, arts administration. There's certainly arts advocates. We've got lawyers and accountants and a lot of specialists in data management, analysis, research. It really, really is. There's a lot of brains on this slide, and I am not meaning to overlook the county because they know this process better than anyone else. So there's a lot of expertise around the table as we evaluate your applications, and I also think a lot of different perspectives, because we've had artists on the board, arts administrators on the board, people that are fluent in giving away grants, just so many different perspectives that I feel really good about the team that is lined up here in terms of different perspectives. Thank you.
One thing I don't think we did is we have Thomas Baines with us.
Yes.
Who is our new Deputy Commissioner of Environment and Planning, whose picture would go right here.
Yeah, but his real face is right there.
But here you go. He's live. Just wanted to mention that before we move on.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So what do we evaluate? As I mentioned before, we all recognize that art is very subjective. One person can look at a work of art and say, oh my gosh, I'll never forget this moment. And another could look at it and go, nah, my kindergartner could do that. Why do you like that so much? Art is so subjective. We all know that. We do tend to get into our little, cliques of, fans of dance, fans of classical music, fans of, so that we can at least have an educated conversation about different art forms with our friends. But that said, this board is not here to evaluate the quality of the art itself. And you won't have anybody drop it into your place of business to say, I didn't like the opera piece I heard last night. That doesn't happen. So what we do instead is analogous to your annual checkup. And you're going to hear us make that analogy a lot tonight. So this is an opportunity for you to really get a checkup on many different parts and pieces that help your organization to run not only smoothly, but effectively, that help your organization to be strong, that help your organization to grow and have a greater impact. And in terms of what you set out to do, right? You had a vision for this nonprofit, or your predecessors did, or your board did, and they distilled that into their mission, where they fit in the world of making that vision happen. And then the programs are moving the mission along to its success, to be more and more successful in what it is you set out to do. So how do you know if your heart is working well, if your lungs are working as well as they could, and if your blood work could be better? That's basically what we're doing, is we're giving your organization a physical. So we're going to look at your board governance. We're going to look at your bylaws. We're going to ask you if all of your board members have agreed to a conflict of interest policy and signed off on it. We'll ask you how many independent board members you have. We're going to ask you about questions that will reveal to us your financial health. We're going to ask you questions that reveal to us your alignment of your programs in support of your mission? Or are you going off the reservation with what it is that you offer? We're going to ask you questions that reveal to us your ability to manage and plan strategically. And we are going to evaluate and assess your diversity, equity, and inclusion practices, not what you think they should be idealistically, but what are you doing in those areas, both in terms of your audience and your organization wide, from the volunteers all the way up to the board members. We want to know what you're doing to meet your DEI goals. And in the end, you know, like the slide says, you come out better for it. I like to say, as somebody who has filled out this grant application, you come out better for it. Once you complete this grant application and you really demonstrate in each and every one of these areas that you are pursuing the top quality in terms of best practices, you're ready to apply for any grant. Just get out there and find out who else is giving away money. Because by the time you finish this grant application, you really are ready to apply anywhere. I believe that. Next slide. This is what evaluators see. We are, sometimes it's a real struggle. We are literally like if you were in school, or if it was your credit score, right? Or if it was anything in a real physical, we're going to be assessing your performance in all of these areas with a number. You can see on this slide, a number 1 would mean, right, very few strengths. And the weaknesses were just, we're exhausted counting how many weaknesses were in this application, right? Exceptional, we would say that that's the application that I wish I could hold up to everybody else in the room, because they filled it out as best as you possibly can in terms of answering the question that was asked. Their attachments were orderly. They made sense. They were well done. They were thoughtful. Anyway, so there's this really broad range that we've been given, because this really is a struggle sometimes. Sometimes there's a weakness that's really, really tough to overlook. As much as the passion is there, the weaknesses need to be addressed. And if we don't address them, it'll just be chronic year after year after year. So in terms of your financial health, within the questions you've been asked, hopefully some of you have already opened up your portal and you've already started looking at the questions that you're being asked. So we're asking for data. There are some narrative responses. We have attachments for you to fill out. We're asking you for a cash flow projection. We're asking you to fill in your revenues and expenses for the last, I want to say it's 4 years. We want to see, are you getting stronger? Are you getting weaker? Are you, with the pandemic, are you at least holding your own? Management and planning, again, there's more data. I kind of wish I would have had a couple of the, you know what? The second half of this presentation is going to be a live run through of the grant application itself, and you'll be able to see what we mean when we say we're asking you for data, we're asking you for narrative about management and planning. It will make sense at that point in time. You'll be able to see exactly how the word or how the questions are worded. For services and programs, we're going to ask you, how are you fulfilling your mission with this program? How exactly does this program fulfill your mission? How many people have been impacted? How many people have you reached? How many people do you still want to reach and you're trying to get there? For prior grantees, we're going to ask, this isn't for prior grantees, this is for new people. But there is an expectation that you're going to thank Erie County somehow for the money that you received in support of your arts and cultural organization. That could be a logo on your website, that could be a logo on a brochure, that could be something in social media, but we will ask you if you did. For higher levels, we're even going to ask you how you did. Once you have been through the process and received feedback, future years for you guys, but we'll be asking you, what'd you think of the feedback? What'd you do about the comments and the critiques that you got? Because they only come from a place of trying to help the applicant have a stronger application in the following year. There are opportunities for bonus points. Yeah, it's a word game. No, there are opportunities for bonus points. There are areas in the grant where you have opportunities to really dig in and explain something better if you feel like there wasn't enough room to do it earlier in the application. There are opportunities for you to attach newspaper articles or your annual report or anything else, a strategic plan, something else that you want us to see to demonstrate your due diligence in making your nonprofit the strongest that it can be. It could be something that wasn't asked for, that you really want to share it, and there's a place for you to put it there. Personally, I think it's a shame when an applicant just ignores that opportunity, because there's always something great that you could have added. For the next slide. You know, we just put this together today, and board members that are in attendance tonight with experience might even have more that they would like to say. But so this comes from lots of commiserating with colleagues that are doing the grant evaluations. Some best practices, some tips, like what are we looking for? When we ask you if there are, for bylaws, we're going to look and see, are there term limits for your board members? We're going to look back from 5 years ago to see if it's the same list of board members. If you told us that the term limits are 3 years, we have ways to see if they really turned out after 3 years. So do you have term limits? Do you honor your own term limits? Do you say that you're really trying to have a diverse board, but nobody ever leaves? That's really not an effort toward trying to bring in new perspectives and new blood. Don't be repetitive is another one. It's really tempting to have a really great paragraph or two that you use somewhere else in the grant application and you're stumped for something to say, so you drop it in again and again. Don't. The evaluators already read it. If you really don't have an answer to the question, then, you know, skip over it and keep working on your application, or say not applicable and keep working on your application. But we really don't need to see words just for the sake of words. Your work plan. So we're going to ask you, what is your work plan? How are you using the money? Of course, it's correct for you to say, we're using the money on the things we're allowed to use it for, period. But that doesn't help me to appreciate why you need money, or even more money. Help me see what you're going to do with those funds. Help me vision what your 2023 is going to look like. Help me see how this funding is going to take on a life of its own and really support some great work. Show me that in your work plan. So there are a host of documents that you submit. Make sure they're readable before you submit them. If for some reason it's not clear, it's blurry, the document is just very old, then find a way to either get a word processor and do it over again, or take a better copy of it. But if it's not legible and we can't read it in the first place, it will count the same as if you didn't attach it at all. If you do need technical assistance with that, Marilee is willing to have a conversation with you about that. We're going to ask you for documents such as your tax filing. What we want to see is your most recent real tax filing, the one with your signature on it, the one that actually went to the IRS. We don't want to see your tax filing from 2018. It might be handy on your desktop, but that's not the one we want to see. Submit final, not draft documents. So if your board is in the process of revising its conflict of interest policy, we want to see the one that is in use today. We don't want to see the one that you're thinking about creating in the future. Feel free to attach that on that part of the application where you can attach other documents. But the only way for us to see how you're governing yourself, your organization, is to see what you're really using in real life today. So your bylaws should be today's bylaws that govern the organization. Your conflict of interest policy should be today's conflict of interest policy that the board members have read, agreed to, and signed, not what they might look like 6 months from now. We want to see proactive diversification of board members, staff, and audiences served. So take a look after this call or sometime during the week. You can take a look at the census numbers for Erie County. Get a sense for what our population represents. We have an extremely diverse population, and we're not talking simply about the most obvious ranges of diversity, but every range of diversity. It could be age, it could be sexual orientation, it could be race, ethnicity, male, female, young, old, I think I already said, but look at the diversity of Erie County and show us how, because it's public money that's going into this fund, show us how the money received from Erie County really benefits all of Erie County residents. That's what we ideally want to see. And if you're having trouble in any of those areas, I think my fellow board members would agree with me, show us that you're trying. Don't say it's not possible. Show us that you're trying. Funding diversification and continuous development of revenue sources. We like to see that you are pursuing other revenue streams, whether it's earned program revenue or whether it's grant revenue. We want to see that you're continuously looking for other ways to grow besides the money that comes from Erie County. Any grant maker is going to say that. If for some reason this one grant didn't happen, would your organization cease to exist? Would you go up in smoke? No. Show us how you would continue to fight to stay alive, how you would sustain yourself. But that's the kind of fire that we want to see. Different funding sources, different plans for continuing to develop revenue to support your mission. And there's more, but this is a really good list of tips. On to the next slide. So which application should you fill out? If your organization is up to $250,000 a year in terms of your budget, then you're level 1. Can you ask for $50,000 because you're level 1? No, not unless that $50,000 represents 20% of last year's actual budget. So since tomorrow's March 1st, we're hoping that you know what last year's actual was, and you know what 20% of last year's actual was. And that's what you would apply for if your organization is from $0 to $250,000 a year in operating expense. The next level would be if you're 750,000 or more. Sound familiar? This is very much like the state regulation on what kind of tax filing you do. So if your organization is $750,000 budget or more, you're looking at a level 2 and so on. So this funding grid, or these 3 different levels, I was here for this. I've been on the board since 2019. These 3 different levels were created to make level 1 easier than, so the more money you ask for, the more we ask you is what it comes down to. The more money you ask for, the more we ask you, the more we require of you, and the more we want attachments that you're going to be submitting. Whereas if it's level 1, the process has been streamlined a bit, and you'll see that in a future slide. And it was also intended to keep a check and balance on how much of your funding is coming from one source. Think about spokes on a wheel, right? You need all the spokes on a wheel to keep your wheel running smoothly. If Erie County is becoming too much of your funding source in terms of your entire revenue stream, that's not healthy. So we're basing it on percentage of your total budget so that there isn't that absolute reliance on Erie County.
I will add one thing. If you are applying for the first time, even if you have a larger budget, it's generally recommended you go with the level 1.
Okay. Eligibility. Located and provide services in Erie County. We want to hear too, in the course of your essay and your application, how much the residents of Erie County are benefiting from your nonprofit. While it might be really great that 90% of your attendance comes from Niagara County, you're not helping yourself to tell us that. We really want to know how Erie County residents are benefiting from the existence and the health of your nonprofit. You need to have been a designated 501c3 for at least a year before you ask for funding. You will have filed your CHAR 500, which gives you the legal standing to ask us for funding. You'll be asked to provide a copy of your most recent submitted tax filing. We're going to look at your application to make sure that you really are a primarily arts and cultural nonprofit, that you belong squarely in the arts and cultural sector. It's really tough when you see human service organizations that do have an occasional cultural program as part of their human services mission. Culture is everywhere, so that does happen. That doesn't mean that organization is now an arts and cultural organization because they ran a program that benefited their clients that happen to be arts and culture. So I hate to pick on the International Institute, but that's an example. Wonderful nonprofit. They do have occasional seasonal cultural programs that are great. They have music programs, they have parades, they're celebrating the culture of all the immigrants that they help to resettle in our region. That doesn't make them an arts and cultural organization. That doesn't mean that that's their sector. So there are pots of money for other missions. It's just not this pot of money. So we're going to ask you, show us that you are operating on a community-wide level, that you are offering activities that the general public can engage in, can appreciate, can experience. If it's a private club, obviously that's not the kind of thing we want to see. If you have a beautiful ornate building, but you do nothing inside of it, then that's not showing us what you're doing to enhance the arts and cultural experience for people that come to Erie County, people that live in Erie County. And we all know culture can be film, it could be art galleries, it could be music, it could be dance, it could be an organization that does all of the above. Poetry, there's literary, there's so many different varieties of culture that I'm going to stop now because I'm beginning to show how ignorant I am on the subject. But There's history, there's so much, but just know that that is your primary reason for existing, or this isn't your pot of money. Quick summary of what we're asking of you in level 1, or should I say of the attachments we're asking. So I'm just going to talk about level 1. So we are asking you for your annual report, your financial report. We're asking you for your annual budget. We're asking you to fill out a worksheet that is very user-friendly. You'll download it and fill it out, send it back to us. We've talked about the tax filing already. We're going to ask you to see a copy of your bylaws. We're going to ask you when your bylaws were last reviewed and approved by the board. And there's a reason why we're doing that, and it's because in, what was it, 2013, 2014, the New York State Nonprofit Revitalization Act had made sweeping changes to nonprofit law. And your bylaws will, if they're too dated, then they won't reflect the most current legal requirements of a nonprofit. So we're going to ask you to see your conflict of interest policy. We're going to ask you to prove that they were agreed to and signed by board members. We're going to ask you for a whistleblower policy. And to that, you're probably saying, why? My organization is not big enough to require a whistleblower policy according to New York State. There are a couple of areas where the county has a higher standard. And we appreciate that that might be a burden. And Mary Lee actually has a whistleblower policy form to help you get past that. But it's a good practice for you to have. It's a good practice for you to be in. And when you do get bigger, you already have it. You'll already be in the habit of having it. So the grants are for general operating support. What that means is some grants you receive, they might specifically say, this can only pay for the artist fees, or this can only pay for the audience outreach or for the education program. We don't do that. It's easier to say what you can't spend it on. We don't want Erie County grant money, and you're going to sign a contract to this effect, paying for physical plant improvements. So if you need improvements done on your building, look for money elsewhere. If you need to pay off old debt, look for money elsewhere. We're not going to tell you that you can't take the money and pay for your rent or your utilities or for the cost of bringing a new person on staff. Absolutely, because all of those things do support your mission. But we will have you sign an agreement in terms of how you are allowed to spend the money. And finally, we would be remiss if we didn't remind you, there are no guarantees in this world. You could have the best grant application out of all 106 of them and still not get funded. The odds of that happening are slim, but there are absolutely no guarantees. And we need you to understand this isn't a quid pro quo that because you filled out the application, we're going to hand you money guaranteed. It is still a request, and it is still, technically, it is still a gift. So obviously, we're all very happy when we're in a position to be able to fund them all. And that's what we want to see happen, but we'll never guarantee that that's what's going to happen. So, oh, this is
Connie, yep, I was thinking I can show this on the website.
Yep.
Instead, because you already covered, I think, a lot of this.
Okay.
Let's see if I can. Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch screens. Please bear with me for a moment. I need to move a couple things out of the way so we can switch screens. Here we go. Okay, so hopefully right now you're seeing a Google Incognito window. The way you do that, you would do a right click on your browser icon. And I start with this because a lot of times people have issues with their browser history acting up. And you would choose new incognito window. If you have Edge, the option is new in private window. And then you would go to erie.gov/cultural. And for new applicants, I would just recommend going right to application and request an account right here.
One
Here,
account per organization.
yes, one per organization. If more than one person is completing your application, which is not unusual, you might have your treasurer do part of it, and then your board president is doing a different part, etc. It's just basic information. You're confirming you're a 501c3. You're confirming that you are on cultural, which meets the eligibility requirements we just mentioned, and then contact info and submit. You'll get an email with a link to then set up your password. In this case, I already have an account that we use for this. If you have issues with your account, just email me or call me. Let's see if I typed that incorrectly. Yes. Once you are in, this is what your account page looks like. Make sure always to log in at the top left of the website. Otherwise, you won't be able to access the application at all. So then go back to application and click 2023 funding application. Ignore this for now. I'm going to go back one time though. At the bottom of this page, first off, there is a file that you can open, and it has all the questions on there. I don't have Microsoft on this computer or Word on this computer, so it will not actually display on mine. 1 second, let me clear this out. But hopefully you can see. Yes, okay. So you can see this Word doc. It has all the questions. You can use this column to type in your answers. And some it might be helpful, some other ones just don't bother, like your organization mission statement. If you have an easy way to access it, you don't have to really copy it in here. You can just use this more for your essay kind of questions that you need to think about more. So that's on the website. You can download that. If you're having issues with the website, you can use this link. It'll download a PDF. And here's a list again of the same documents we just, Connie just gave you a quick overview. Here's the financial worksheet we were talking about for level 1. I'm going to open it real quick so you can see how simple it is. Again, this is an Excel, so it's going to look a little, it won't let me edit it, but because of this, here we go. Oop. Uh-oh, where'd I put it? 1 second. Looks a little funny. There we go. It's displaying funny, but hold on.
It's really basic too. It's got revenues, expenses.
Yep. Prior FY actual, your most recent FY actual, your current FY budget, then your year to date, and then your next FY budget, and then assets and liabilities if you have any. That's it for level 1. That's what we want for your financial worksheet, which is attachment. Let's see. I think it's C. Yeah, you can also download it here. So if you keep scrolling down on that same page, we have the list of documents, and I tell you how to label them. This is also in the application itself, but basically all your examples should be whatever acronym you were assigned, .A.2023, and so on all the way down. If something does not apply to your level, for example, the cash flow forecast is not required for level 1, so you would skip E and just go from D to F. While we're at it, in the resources page, here's the template for the conflict of interest policy. Here's the template for the whistleblower policy. It's a Word doc you can edit as needed. These are based on some of the better policies we've seen from other organizations, and it also has the minimum requirements in accordance with the Nonprofit Corporation uh, Law Act, etc., Section 715-A, which we also have copy pasted into our website so it's easy to read, because otherwise this is like huge paragraphs. Basically, your conflict of interest policy at a minimum has to have these provisions. Your whistleblower at a minimum has to have these provisions. And so we just tried to make it as easy as possible for you. It's all under the resources page. And it just brings you back here. Under resources page, the worksheets again, the templates. There's a cash flow forecast template. This one might be a little intimidating at first. And if you want to use it, go for it. If not, I have it here in the note. Well, let's see. This is what it looks like, obviously from the Nonprofit Finance Fund. If this is already intimidating you, upsetting you, don't worry about it. You can use this template, or let's put that one away as well. You can take this note information here and make your own. Fiscal year starting cash, revenues and expenses by month or quarter, by line item, into general categories. If you want to do, what do you usually spend on? The rents, and then your marketing, and then you got fundraising. That's fine. We don't need it to be super detailed for level 1. Your net per month, net per year, as well as final position, which means that it would not include the starting cash. We also have here more definitions, more information, what constitutes a board member, what's a related party, why do you need to care? It'll be explained in there. Details about boards and officers, committees, etc. And then some other resources. The financial reporting information is what we came up with that Connie was talking about. Did you say something? Sorry.
No, I said a lot of great resources.
And then past trainings are all in here if you want to see them. When I get the video downloaded for this recording, it'll be right here, basically. I'll replace this.
I'll add to the past trainings videos, however, is that
and there'll be a PDF too.
You're always striving to make your nonprofit organization better and better and more efficient. We are too. So at least every year I've been on the board, there are little tweaks that are being made to the application process and the expectations of the grant seeker. So it may not cover exactly the same things that you need to know to apply for funding for 2023, but it'll come close in spirit, I'm sure. And then a lot of the big rock items will be the same, but it's just not always the same application.
Right. Important to note, the only way to find out if you got funding is to look at the county budgets. We have the links here, tell you how to find it, and contact information. And when you are acknowledging Erie County for your grant, here's the seals that you can use. So tons of info here. And let's get into the actual application. So don't be intimidated that there's 24 dots. Since you're level 1 and a new applicant, it'll start to skip you through them. So that's why you won't be able to go back to the gray circle or the black circles. Or you can go back to the black circles, but you can't skip all the way back forward. You'll have to press through each page. And I've listed all that info here. Please note, if you want a copy of your application once you're done, print or save as PDF the preview page, which I'll show you as we go through. Ignore that for now. So we're going to pretend that the organization is Erie County, and it's a new applicant. This, I'm just letting you know, it's very specific format. If you try to type it like erie.gov/cultural, it's not going to work. Make sure to copy paste the whole link from your browser up here. There's your address, or, so your organization's mailing address. We're going to also ask you if your physical address, if you have one, perfect. If you usually use something like a P.O. box or something, please include a street address for that. In this case, I'm just going to put that in there. And I'm just gonna put a short description, county, right. This helps us to sort through a variety of data that is very. So the salutation will be required. It'll kick you back to put in the salutation. This is so we can contact you respectfully and accurately every time. Just leave that there for now. Obviously, the stars means it's required. It'll kick you back. This is the page that has the most required entries. Most of them you'll be able to go back and forth without having to enter information, so that you can get to the questions you need to. All the questions are required unless they specifically say they're optional. But I didn't want to stick you to one page before you could go on to the next. So you can go back and forth as needed, but the ones with this the red star, the asterisk, are required on the first pass through. So you're here, so you'll click the briefing attendance. Yep.
If an organization doesn't have an ED, maybe it's all volunteer run, would they just put NA?
Yep. Hit other, NA. Thank you, Connie. Yep. And let's see. I do have this information from last. Let's put.
This is the who of the who, what, when, where, and how we're going to ask you.
And then if you would like to, and I'm not going to enter this info just for the briefing, but please do put in the contact info. And then if you would like to receive your contract, but if awarded funds, by email instead of a physical copy, select that. Now you can hit save draft if you want. I do recommend it. And then just in case, so you don't lose everything as you go along, and then hit next. Now, here's where it starts to get more specific, right? So let's see. I'm not sure if this is, but.
So that's, we're asking you for 2 years ago, last year.
Right.
According to your fiscal year.
And then, wow, I feel dumb. Is it 2,000?
Oh, that you might be asking for?
Right. If you were asking for 20%, then 2,000 of your most recently completed fiscal year. I put it was 10,000.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry, guys, my math is just not great. Okay. And then at that point, you have all of your financial data. You pick your level. You're requesting less than $50,000, level 1. And here's where they'll all display anyways, but this is where it really starts jumping you after selecting new applicant. Then this is the other big item. The purpose of your funding. We talked about that. Connie gave you good instruction on what you want to include here. I've copy pasted the contract conditions so you can refer to them as you go along.
Yeah, this is your work plan.
Yeah, and you can go back and forth. See the dots that you've gone through are now black, so I can go back by pressing that. I can hit previous if I want to and change this, but and then go forwards one at a time. Your organization mission statement, how do you measure impact and success? And as you can see, there's a little additional instructions for each question if we thought it was necessary, if we wanted to give you more specific pointers about what we were looking for. Don't ignore these portions because we are expecting to see things listed in a certain way or addressed in a certain way. And we also include the word count limit for each one if it has it. Yes. Again, if you have additional attachments, feel free to include them. I will show you where. Carry on. So we were on 5, we're on 6. Basic information about your organization. If you can't find your federal tax ID when you're actually filling it out the first time, you can just hit next. Some of them will disappear as you fill them out. For example, if I submitted my charity 500 today, it removes that next question that was under there. If you don't have a surplus deficit, you hit neither, it removes questions for you. If you do have a surplus, you put in how much you have, etc. And we move on. This is what the attachment pages look like. I'm gonna do the financial worksheet one because it's funny looking. Most of them will have this choose file button, but for some reason this one never does. I cannot get it to work. So you just click on the actual words and it will open an option for you. And I'm doing attachment C. Here we go. This is my example. And there it is. Supposing, that my organization's acronym was ABC. With the correct year and the correct attachment number. And here's the info, the details on that as well. Again, I don't have, so this is attachment B up here. And I used actual organization documents, in case you were wondering. One file only. This tells you the size limit for each one. The types, they should all be PDF. And do keep your files as small as possible, please. The application itself has a limit. It's a very high limit, but if you can keep it small, please do so. If you don't know how to flatten or compress a file, we actually have some guidance. Sorry about that. Under how to apply, there's some tips under number 5. You know what I meant to say? Oh, we need some questions. We have some questions here. I knew I was forgetting something. Sorry about that, everyone. Dawn, I'm sorry, asked if we need a cash flow forecast. No, not for new applicants or for level 1. And another question was, so if we want all the grant questions to be posed to the executive director instead of the person filling out the application, should we use the executive director contact info for the answer on the first page? Yes, just list the executive director for both grant contact and executive director, because I will reach out to the grant contact. Here's the page that Connie mentioned. So for level 1, all we ask on the actual application is that you tell us when you last reviewed your bylaws or your governance documents. We'll go through those. And the most recent date of adoption. The difference is listed in these little question thingies, if it'll display for me. Well, I'll have to double check that. It should display a little help box, and obviously it's not. But I will tell you that the date of last review is the last time you looked through your bylaws and you decided, yep, this is still good, this still serves our organization, it is still in compliance with the laws, it's still good. We looked at it and it didn't need any changes, we're all good, you put the date there. The most recent date of adoption may be before or after the date of last review. It means that you made changes. The last time you made changes and your board said, this is our new version, and adopted that. So these dates might be the same, but they're probably going to be different. And if this date is significantly older, like 5-10 years ago, then this should be more recent than that. You should be checking your governance documents regularly to make sure they are still serving your organization.
That's another example of a red flag.
So same with your conflict of interest policy and your whistleblower policy. We also recommend, I guess it doesn't, on your policies, you may want to include those dates on the actual policy.
Absolutely.
And here's where you would attach them. Again, it has all the information about the file itself and what it should look like, so you can reference it as you're doing it. We're gonna do attachment F. I recommend saving the file to the to a folder that opens first instead of having to dig through to find it. But that's up to you. It just makes it a little easier when you're actually filling it out. So you would put all 3 governance documents here about the conflict of interest policy. Make sure that you have a blank, so you have the policy itself, blank declaration/disclosure forms, and copies of all the signature pages for all of your current key persons, and which includes your board members.
Yeah. And it's the most current signature page as well.
Yes. The declarations disclosure form should have a space for your key persons and board members to list any conflicts they have. It's not bad that they have a conflict. Your conflict of interest policy actually tells you how to manage those conflicts. It's okay to have them. You just want your organization as a corporation to be aware of them and know how to handle them when they come up. So it should have a space for them to list any conflicts. And we want to see those copies, the copies of those signature pages. That should all be one file, one PDF, 10 megabytes max. And you would attach it here. You would attach your whistleblower policy. Now, you don't have to do it all at once. If you're kind of just going through and you can just save your draft, you can come back to it later. So if I were to log out and try to log in again, go back to the application, 2023 funding, and it brings me right back to where I was. You can go back, you can go forwards, etc. Sometimes the page starts at the bottom, I'm not sure why. Here's your board information. Say you have 15 board members. You should have, if you have 15 board members and no key persons, you should have 15 conflict of interest disclosure forms collected and in force. If you have 15 board members and 3 key persons, you should have 18 of these. If you're not sure what a key person is, you would go to your resources, definitions and descriptions, and I believe it's under here, related party transactions, I think. Let me mark it up now while we're here. Okay, so it's not this one, my apologies. Can't recall exactly which one is the one. Oh, pretty sure it's this one then. Here we go, sorry. So key person, here's the description. It's basically, if they don't have to be an employee of the corporation, but it's someone who has power and responsibility to do something similar to the directors or officers. And I'll give you time to just read
A
down.
great example is a founder that is termed off the board, but still hanging around and volunteering a lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody with a lot of influence, right?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was under independent directors. Sorry about that. I couldn't remember exactly. Right. There we go. Okay. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry. Let's go back into the application. Jumps me right back to where I was. The number of independent directors, you would find the definition in that same page that I just circumnavigated to. And then the demographics for your board. We know that sex, gender, ethnicity, and race are not the same thing, but we are asking for an overview of your board. Use whole numbers, not percentages or fractions, etc. If a person identifies as more than one, you can go ahead and list that as well. I know there's other ethnicities that are not listed here. Feel free to use none of the above. And then here is, this question is optional, but encourage. If your board is diverse in other ways, please do let us know.
Mm-hmm.
There is geographically, but their age may be different. They may have different abilities. Please feel free to tell us about that. We also ask about your staff. There we go. Again, these numbers are use whole numbers, number of persons, not salary amounts or anything like that. No fractions, no decimals. And please use final numbers from your most recently completed FY, unless it's specifically stated, such as current budget or current FY to date. So this is for all your volunteers and your paid staff if you have it. And then this table here is obviously for paid staff only. Use whole numbers, most recently completed FY, and whether a person is in a leadership or non-leadership position. And we've listed all the characteristics in one big table. And again, if your staff is diverse in other ways, please let us know.
If we haven't thought of every possible way to be diverse in a one-page document,
Right.
we have not, then there's a spot for you to fill in the rest of the information that you want to tell us.
So more essay type questions, although 250 words is your max. We don't want you to stress about trying to write, the largest detailed long essay. We want you to stick to the question, stick to the point, and answer the different parts of the question. So if you tell us only about your programming decisions, we're going to be like, well, what about your staffing or your outreach? So take a look always at these items, these like sub headings in the application, and let us know.
I think the key word here is demonstrates.
Yes.
Because a lot of people have very firm beliefs, but their organization might not be walking the walk yet. So it's how is your organization demonstrating alignment? Not what are you planning to do or what do you wish you could do, but what are you doing?
If you do not have a DEI statement, please say so. Let us know what you are doing about developing one. Yeah. And if you do have it, please copy paste it. We'd love to hear it. This one, see, it's a list or summary of your organization's services and programs. If you were applying for level 3, we would have a table for you to actually list all of the programs with a lot more detail. So we keep it simple for you here. And then we want you to provide examples of how you support racial justice, economic justice, and environmental justice. Not all organizations are gonna necessarily be doing all of these. These are big systemic issues that, while we each do what we can, we might not be doing everything for all of them. Just let us know how your organization does support them, and what you're looking to do as well.
It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. I mean, if you firmly promote recycling and only purchase recycled products, that's economic justice, I mean, environmental justice. If you have a program where admission is underwritten for, all kids under 15 or something, that might be an example of economic. Or if you have a sliding scale of some kind, or you have outreach that is complementary, or you deliberately go into underserved communities to make sure that everyone can experience it. Just show us what you're doing. Backing up to the one at the top, the list, we want to mention that if, for example, you have a series that is every Monday, 10 months a year, you can just name the series and then say that it's every Monday. You don't have to list it over and over and over again. Anytime that you can sort of summarize something, if it's repeated, you don't have to use up the space that way. So this would be your your different services and programs. And if you have a situation where we love it when nonprofits collaborate, but if another organization comes to you and says, will you help us get the word out for XYZ thing that we're doing, because it really would help us to reach a broader audience if you help us. And then you might have a quid pro quo where you're going to help the other organization. That doesn't mean that that presentation now becomes your presentation in terms of your list of things that you presented, produced, or exhibited. These are the things that your organization presented, produced, or exhibited.
Mm-hmm. Then number of persons served, demographic information if you have it, and the source of those numbers, please. And note differences with pre-pandemic conditions if you can. Again, 500 words max.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, we're only asking the one question, as opposed to the higher levels.
That it was virtual for this number of months, and then after that it was. Because you still have numbers, you still have virtual attendance. Is that where you would say that?
So here is actually the additional information one. So basically you're done with all the questions. That was the application. Here though, you can either write additional information. So significant changes or unexplained changes in or numbers, etc., in your documents, and any missing information for whatever reason, or topics that we didn't address in the application that you want to tell us about your organization. If 250 words is not enough, you can do a Word doc and then save it as a PDF and upload it up to 5 megabytes. You can also, in that same spot, although it's one file, you can, like Connie mentioned about newspaper clippings and
I've seen brochures, annual reports, strategic plans,
yeah.
awards.
Oh yeah.
I've seen a lot of interesting things go on there. But it's a missed opportunity if you don't show us something else you'd love for us to see right there in that spot.
Yeah. So here you can save it. You can go back to the prior screen. If you want, you can go to any of these black dots, or you can hit preview if you're curious or just want to double check. So you can also, once you're in the preview screen, you can hit edit to go back to the pages to change your answers if you need to. Please double check your numbers. If you notice, oh, actually our budget went up in 2021 from 2020, you can hit edit. Oh, I shouldn't have gone so far, actually. Change it to whatever it may be and hit next. But here's where I messed up for this briefing. Now you have to go all the way back, one by one. Sorry, folks. I should have picked something a little closer to the end for you. Moving along. Preview again, and you can do that with each page. You can see when something is empty, so I'm missing the tax filing attachment. All these questions are empty, so you can go back and edit them. You can see your entire application. So here, if you want a copy and you're all done, you need to print your application. That's how you get a copy. And then you would submit. You'll get a page like this. You will get an email, and I will get an email letting me know that you have submitted it. And you have until April 13th at midnight to do so. So I'm going to switch screens.
And late applications do show up on the score. It's a debit on your score.
Mm.
Missing items is a debit on your score. I only mention that because these evaluation charts have been created in such a way that as much as we might want to believe that an evaluator is going to be wowed by a superb this section, but the other sections are kind of halfway, half-baked. Every single category is evaluated. Every single category is getting a valuation number. So you could wow us with your mission statement, but financials look kind of wonky and the conflict of interest statements aren't all there. It's not going to carry you through the whole evaluation. You really want to do as well as you can possibly do on every single area.
So, does anyone have any questions at this point? I think probably a lot of information pretty quickly.
Yep.
So I believe if anyone wants to be unmuted, I can set that up. So someone's asking what's CHAR 500? That is a document you submit to New York State after submitting a CHAR 400. Was that right? 400, 480? It is required by New York State.
New York State Charities Bureau, in order to be granted the, I guess it's a form of license to be able to solicit, then you would apply to be able to solicit funding. You get your charitable number. You have the right to be asking for money from individuals and from government, and then to keep up your legitimacy as a solicitor, you file a CHAR 500 every year. It's a very simple document. People typically file it the same time they're doing their tax filing, just so they don't forget. But these regulations were put in place to protect John Q. Public. So if I get a phone call from somebody soliciting saying, oh, we're really trying to raise money for Ukraine and won't you please get out your credit card? I can ask them, what's your charity ID number? So I can make sure that they are a legitimate nonprofit, that they legitimately have the right to solicit funding. And if the conversation ends right then and there and they hang up, then you know something's amiss. So that is the first thing you would have done before you started asking for solicitations in New York State.
You can we just need to Google New York State Charities Bureau, and they have everything on there.
The CHAR 500 is how you maintain it. Like if you were a CPA, you would have to take, X number of course credits every year, or you might have to retest to keep your driver's license. Your CHAR 500 is how you maintain your, license to solicit money in New York State.
Any other questions? I hope I'm not missing any other questions. Nope, Q&A is good. Chat looks good.
We just threw a lot of information at you. If you don't have a question today, but one pops into your mind, I have never known a grant administrator that is as friendly and accessible as Mary Lee. It's true.
Yep, any questions, feel free to email me anytime. Phone, I am in the office 8:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday. So your best bet is to email me, but if that's difficult, just give me a call as well, leave a voicemail.
If you haven't done it before, a lot of this will make more sense once you're in there doing it.
Yep.
We're gonna wait a little while to see if there's any lingering questions.
Yeah, I think I'll stay on till 8:05 since it seems everyone is good, but just in case anyone thinks of something, I'll keep recording till then.
Mhm.
But if folk are all set, they can sign off and just email me, contact me with any questions, or ASI as well.
Mhm. We always like to see new applicants. We
Definitely.
like to see applicants from all over the county. We like to see applicants that we hadn't heard from before. And getting the word out to everyone is always a challenge.
Mhm.
So we're glad that there were so many at tonight's presentation.
Yeah, definitely. Seems we answered everyone's questions, or we completely overwhelmed them.
But they all just need to go grab a, they all just need a hamburger or something. It's a long time to be sitting here looking at the screen.
Yeah.
One day we might be doing this in person again.
Yeah, that'll be nice.
We've had sessions like this, right, at Rockwell Hall, at the History Museum. Where else?
Did you say Rockwell Hall?
Rockwell. I thought I remembered attending one at, I'm sorry, Birchfield Penny.
Yes. Yep, I think that was my first one.
Yeah. And then I remember attending one at the History Museum.
Yep. Yeah. It'll be nice. I think we have a lot of really great cultural locations.
Mm-hmm. And this is the first time that we had one for folks that are new to the process or hadn't received funding before, and then one that was for people that were more seasoned. We had never tried that before. Usually it's just, let's show you all three levels to everyone. And that would really be overwhelming if you're, 5 years away from level 2. That's a lot to have to drinking water through a fire hose. That's a lot to have to take in of information you don't even need. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Indeed.
We have another question.
Yes. Let's see. We have a question. Impacted by COVID and programs were discontinued and budget was reduced. Hoping to get funding for new/more programs next year. Can we figure those projected expenses in our request, or are we limited by our expenditures for last year only? Yes, please just show your actual, do the math precisely as requested in the application. But you can just tell us throughout the essay questions and other items or the additional information, this exact situation. Just tell us about it, tell us what you expect to use it, how you expect your budget to change moving forward. And I can't guarantee you'll get more than 20% of your last completed fiscal year, but that's just the same for everyone regardless. So I would just answer the questions mathematically, but then if you have a different information that you would say, okay, so this is what we can request, but if we could, this is what we would actually need to put on this programming. Just put it in your application. Is there anything else? June, you said you have another question? Oh, here we go. We run a weekend language school. We have budget for the teachers and the rent of the school. Okay. think there might be another part to this question. Does that qualify for the grant? A weekend language school. So usually when we're not entirely sure, I ask that you send me your mission statement. Just copy paste it and send it to my email. I can give you more information directly if I can read through that. If I need more information after that, I'll let you know, and we can do like check with some other documents and such.
Yeah,
But
and
often,
kind of ruminate on that definition, those 3
Mhm.
points, and show us how you fit. That's what I
Right.
would tell us how you fit into one of those descriptions, at least one of them.
hmm
And your budget's also going to show your revenues as well as your expenses.
Any other questions? Part of your mission to oversee a heritage language school. Well, that sounds promising for sure.
You can see that she's on a roll.
Yeah, sounds promising. So yeah, send me your mission statement, the whole thing on to my email. And I can let you know for sure and set you up with an account if it looks good. No problem.
All right.
All right. Last call for questions. I'm just giving people a chance because I know sometimes you're like trying to get all your things together and get into the right box to send a message.
Well, one of the things the grant application is going to ask you this year, I'm pretty sure, is did you attend the training and orientation?
Yep. Yeah, I was
So
on
you all get to click, yes, I did.
Mm. All right. Seems like everyone is good. I think I'm going to wrap it up now. If anyone has any questions, again, email or call me, and we can help you out. All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to stop the recording and shut down the.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out.